Assalamu alaikum. Hello, doctor. This is Uthman Al Hadiri, and this is the video presentation for Project 2 for PSDA subject. Let's first let's have some briefing about the report. As we all know, due to the coronavirus, this Project 2 is the alternative assessment for the final exam, since we cannot do face-to-face exams due to coronavirus. So the project is about some statistical tests done on a dataset that I found online. These tests, we will see the results of these tests, and we will see if they have huge impact or not, if they are interesting or not, and then decide and observe to come up with a conclusion. We will do 4 different types of tests. The first test is the hypothesis test for 2 samples, which will be done the first, and then we have the correlation testing, then the regression testing, and finally we have the optional test, which is the chi-square test. So without further ado, let's have a look at the dataset. The dataset is I found this dataset online in Sheffield University website. It's about a group of states in the US. These states have different variables that contribute to the crime rate. The crime rates in these states, and with other variables such as the number of males, number of unemployed youth, number of police expenditure in specific state, and other variables that we will see which ones contribute the most to the increase of the crime rate. I found this dataset interesting and attractive for me. It attracted my attention because once we see the results of these tests, we will have very important information that we know what causes the crime rate to raise and what causes the crime rate to decrease in a specific city, which is really important, not for just one person but for the whole society. That's why I really wanted to know what happens if we do that, what happens if this thing increases, if this thing decreases. So that's why I found it interesting. So let's have a look at the tests. First, we will have the hypothesis testing with 2 samples. The t-test will be performed on 2 variables, the crime rate and the southern states, to check if the southern states have higher crime rate mean or not. Then we have a correlation test, which is to check if there is a linear relationship between the police expenditure and the crime rates. Followed by a regression test, which was executed to see if the male number in a specific state have an impact on the crime rate. The male number is the independent variable, which is clear that this number cannot be increased due to another factor, and the crime rate is obviously dependent because it depends on other stuff that causes the crime. For the chi-square test, we will check if there is a relationship between the number of high unemployed youth and the southern states. So for the first test, we have the null hypothesis is that the 2 means are equal. Whether the state is in the south or not, the mean of crime rates is equal. The alternative hypothesis is that they are not equal, or this is a mistake. The mean for the southern states is higher than the the other states, the non-southern states. And this is, as we see the results, we have the t-value which is 0.4 less than the p-value 0.69. Therefore, we fail to reject the null hypothesis at the 95% level of confidence, and we conclude that the mean for crime rates in the southern states is higher than the mean in the non-southern states. We go to the correlation test. The sample of 47 states has been chosen for this test. The null hypothesis is that there is no correlation between the police expansion and the crime rate. The alternative hypothesis is the opposite, is that there exists correlation between police expansion and the crime rate. So the R for this test is 0.6, which can be considered as moderate, positive moderate. So positive moderate relationship, which means there is correlation. The t-value was 5.4. The critical value was 2.014. Therefore, we reject the null hypothesis. There are evidence to conclude that there is a linear relationship between the police expenditure and the crime rates at the level of confidence 95%. And then going to the regression test, the sample is 47 as we knew. The x variable is the crime rate, which is the dependent one. The independent is the number of males. The y was the crime rate. The x is the number of males. The null hypothesis is that there is no relationship. The alternative hypothesis is that there is a relationship. So we get beta or b1 as 0.158. Therefore, we conclude that there is a relationship between x and y variables, and that the change of x affects the y at 0.1581. Yep, moving on to the chi-square test. We have the null hypothesis that the high number of employed is independent from the southern states. The alternative is the opposite, that there is no relationship between them. The value of x squared was 4.73. I'm sorry, and then the critical value was 3.8. Therefore, we reject the null hypothesis at 95%, and we conclude that the number of high youth is dependent on the southern states. It means that in the southern states, which clearly has the higher crime rates, it is the states that have higher number of unemployed youth. Yep. In conclusion, we found out that the variables that I was interested in from the beginning were the ones that contributed to the crime rate increase. To sum up, the dataset was about crime rates in several states in the United States. The variables that have been used in the testing is the crime rates, the number of youth, number of unemployed youth, the number of males, and the police expenditure in some in some states. The tests were done using R code that is also included in the file. It was really interesting project that taught us many skills and experience. And that's all for this project. Thank you so much, Doctor. Hope to see you soon. السلام عليكم.